What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. We've got a big cast for you this week. Joining us is Justin Davis, Sam Claiborne.
I'm in the center.
And here comes a new challenger. David Griffin is joining us for his first time. Let's all be gentle with him.
Thanks for having me.
David is a new member of our editorial team down in our LA office, covering the streaming television space. He reviewed Stranger Things Season 2 for us, and he's currently working on The Punisher review, which is should be up next week, I believe. Is that Monday?
You look for some coverage on Monday coming.
Yeah, the spoiler-free preview review is Monday, and then the full binge. David is going to be like in his home, just binge watching the rest of The Punisher and like binge writing reviews.
I'm excited to see that one. And that voice you're hearing is, of course, Terry Schwartz joining us again. Welcome back, Terry.
Thank you. I look to be better, maybe in what might just like.
Did we win last time?
Yeah, but with no help from me. I think the second.
Well,
what was the game?
I don't even.
Did it come out after 2000?
No, it was so early. Like I stopped answering questions halfway through because I was like, asking questions. Yeah, I was like, I'm no help.
These guys they need all the help they can get.
I heard that you guys went on a losing
streak.
streak.
They've been on a losing
Well,
streak.
what were between you two? What were your first consoles? So we know what year we can rely on you for.
Like Game Boy Color and
That's good.
N64.
That's good. That gets you halfway back there.
Great.
PC. It was a Macintosh, it was Apple, some kind.
So in the CD-ROM era?
Yeah. No, before that, it was floppy disks.
Yeah,
floppy
It was
disks.
big floppy disks.
So in the 2E era.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
All right.
can-
I think we're going to be
you,
good then.
you can stay.
Thank you.
Prince of Persia in black and white.
Away.
No, you can also stay. We love you.
No, we have a great show for you this week. We're going to talk about Resident Evil 7. We're going to talk about a very gross term called recurrent consumer spending.
Oh boy.
So
That's in
corporate.
Resident Evil 7. It's the third boss.
And it's impossible to defeat. But first, breaking news.
Wait, Damon's getting word. If there's nothing in your ear. Why are you doing that?
No, they have new technology. That's how they send it. They beam it to me now. We found out today EA, Electronic Arts, has bought Respawn, developer of Titanfalls 1 and 2, for a deal that is worth up to $455 million if certain checkpoints are reached over the years. There will no layoffs are involved. This is they're presenting it as a good thing. Vince Zampella remains in charge of Respawn. They will continue work on their Star Wars game and apparently Titanfall 3, which is a thing. What do you guys make of this news? Justin, I know you had some thoughts about this.
I mean, I think it's good news. I think, well, first of all, Titanfall 2 didn't sell very well. So we were kind of worried about
but it's a very good
Respawn.
game.
Well, we heard that
They had
EA,
a tough release window.
Yeah.
EA is having a tough time, getting their AAA Star Wars games out the door. And we knew Respawn was working on a Star Wars game, and Titanfall 2 didn't sell well. And so, absent any insider knowledge or anything, we were just like, man, is Respawn okay? And so it's really wonderful to see, they made a really, really high quality game and see that, rewarded with, they're going to have some safety, presumably, for at least in the short term under the EA umbrella. My big question was, what does EA get out of it? They've published all of their games already.
Yeah, they already get that big publisher money. Why do they need to own the developer?
And so so I'm a little unclear on owning the developer. And I asked Marty that same thing. He's like, maybe it's just putting a ring on it. Like they're working well together.
Do you think it's just acquisitions? Like just nice to have it as part of the EA umbrella?
Well,
Maybe
and
they're going to make them make mobile games.
There's some rumors that the contract, we're seeing, to give credit where credit's due, Kotaku is doing additional reporting on this, and they're saying that EA had first right of refusal. If someone
Maybe that
else
was part
wanted
of
to
the deal
buy
all along.
Respawn, EA got the opportunity to buy them first, and that Nexon and some other companies had come kind of sniffing around Respawn, and that triggered, hey, we like you, we'll buy
And it's
you.
no secret. The Mega Cops, we were going to buy them.
Yeah.
Well, we had
it's really...
Pulled our
Too
money.
soon.
We're going to talk about it after this
now
episode. But
that the deal is public, we can say we did have an offer in.
Yeah.
Our offer
Game
was
Scoop
not.
specifically.
It was not quite as high as $455 million.
Well, it's interesting the context too. Like you're bringing up the Star Wars game, and it's good news in my perspective for that game can still come to fruition. But there also is big news in the Disney realm that Disney announced that there will be a new trilogy of Star Wars movies and a live action TV show coming at some point, probably after late 2019. So I wonder if part of it is still like.
did you feel like he said that sentence like 6 years ago?
Yeah,
And it was about
still-
what we're seeing right now?
But I wonder like if the timing is potentially like similar, that there's some
Yeah, it all
thread
happened on
there.
the same day.
The sun
Yeah.
never sets on Star Wars, the world of Star Wars. The
Well,
Empire
it's
of
just
Star
such a big
Wars.
title. I mean, just the fact that they have, DICE, doing their game, of course, the Battlefront, and then
Yeah.
with this, I mean, it's just Star Wars it's bankable. It's great to have it. So if you're gonna have a Star Wars developer or a guy making a Star Wars game, then bring them into the family. It makes sense. I mean, I'm excited to see what their game's gonna be because Titanfall 2 was good. It was a great improvement over the first one. The single player campaign was fantastic. So I'm excited to see what they do next.
And it seems like they're interested in doing something a little bit different, especially in line with the movie TV news. If the games continue in that fold, it would be really interesting.
I mean, EA shut down Visceral, and then buys a developer. They're very different companies with, in different cities and yada, yada, but still similar-ish, making big AAA, high-octane games. So it's a little bit of an interesting call. It's hard to get too deep into it without, we're not living it. We're not in there living it. But from an outside perspective, it's like they traded one studio to pick up another.
Yeah.
Like, it's odd.
Well, there's a rumor. There's a former EA developer that was tweeting that the word on the street is that Respawn's Star Wars game was actually instrumental in EA's decision to shut down Visceral's game because in comparison, Respawn's game looked so much better.
They're just like, it's just coming together better. Who
yeah.
knows what.
So, but that's just a rumor from a former EA developer.
Yeah, that's part of what we had heard about Visceral, right? That they got, to be fair, EA put out, for such a big company that's normally so disciplined, their statement was very easy, gave a lot of people to chew on about single player games going away and yada, yada. And then afterwards it came out, well, Visceral's game just wasn't coming together the way that it needed to and was just taking way too long to get, not meeting its milestones.
Yeah.
So, if in comparison, Respawn was moving faster and was meeting their milestones, then maybe something like this could make more sense.
And it's good to hear that at least EA doesn't seem to be blaming Respawn for the commercial disappointment of Titanfall 2, right?
Yeah.
Maybe EA is actually owning up to that. Maybe we shouldn't have released it right in between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty. Yeah.
It's almost like it's been a really busy year for games.
Yeah.
It's sad news too. I know it's been reported for a while now, but Visceral shutting down because Dead Space is one of my favorite
Mine too,
franchises. Like I play that probably once a year all the way through. So
yeah.
I was still waiting for Dead Space 4.
And horror games are still really popular.
Yeah,
We might get
yeah.
to that later in this.
We
very
will
episode.
talk about horror games in just a little bit. And you mentioned Battlefront 2, which is coming out next week, and we've been playing it. We were live streaming it earlier today.
Yeah, because there's 10 hours of early access right now, and you can play the first couple chapters of single player, so everybody can finally play this game.
I think it's the second to last, or maybe I shouldn't say so definitively. It's one of the final big, it's like Battlefront 2 and Pokemon, and then in early December we get Xenoblade, and then there's usually like I think it's just to mess with IGN. There's usually like a December 20th, very late in the year, big AAA game launch, and this year it's kind of after Xenoblade, it quiets down.
Yeah, and then because there's a lot of January, February games.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Which
The only
is
other
awesome.
one, it's not big, but after Xenoblade, there's Okami HD coming. But
I missed Okami the first time around, so.
good
It's
time
okay.
to
We'll just
revisit.
have you all hands on deck for Last Jedi. We need like
Totally.
Jedi, yeah.
Star Wars is in
17
December.
offices to come together to try and cover that game.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't movie scoop,
movie,
but I
yeah.
would, we're all Star Wars fans. Sam is a particularly big Star Wars fan. What was your initial reaction to hearing that Rian Johnson's going to do another trilogy outside of the Skywalker story?
I'm surprised they chose him or he chose them or however it works because we haven't seen this movie yet.
But
we haven't
apparently
seen
that's a
what
vote
what
of
it's gonna be
confidence.
Like. What is it?
Did you see
From
his tweet
Lucasfilm?
about it? It was so funny. He was
Yeah.
like, I already really hoped that you liked Last Jedi, but now I really hope that you like The Last Jedi.
Seriously. I hope we all like The Last Jedi. You guys probably have more to say about this than I do. I'm worried.
I'm so excited.
It's tough with these big tent poles because you have to, if you're a director or a writer in this business, you have to play ball with one of them. You're not making an indie film, a small film.
Yeah.
Remember when it was announced that Trevorrow was leaving? His film, episode 9, it was like, well, people were like, why don't we bring in David Fincher or something like that? I was like, David Fincher's not going to come in because he wouldn't be able to be David Fincher.
Yeah.
He would have to be Disney's version of David Fincher. And I wouldn't want to see that version of him. So I think that's one of those things that I'm excited that he's got the role because I love Rian Johnson. He's a good director. I love Looper. It's a fantastic film. So if he can do more of that in the Star Wars universe, that's great. But I mean, is he just going to make something like JJ did in The Force Awakens, which was pretty safe? It was good, but safe.
Right. Yeah. I think that to me, the most exciting exciting thing to come out of it is that Disney Lucasfilm is trusting Ryan to make something entirely new. Yeah. Because to me, I agree with you. I think JJ made something very familiar with The Last Jedi, and knowing that he's replacing Colin in Episode 9, I'm imagining it's going to conclude as something very familiar as well. But Ryan, to me, was a chance for Disney and Lucas to try something very different from what they've had in the past. And I really like everything that he's had before now and what his spin on science fiction is. So to me, it's a big vote of confidence that they're looking to entrust him with an entire trilogy. It's not like JJ getting one movie to kick it off and then trying different directors. And I think that they learned from the MCU that like you need auteurs who work within the company line, and Ryan, the fact that he can, that's great. You say David Fincher, I say like Denis Villeneuve, who did Blade Runner 2049, would have loved to see his Star Wars movie, but we've seen so many director problems with this franchise thus far, with like the individual solo movies, anthology movies they're trying to make, that they just keep swapping out directors. And same with Colin, that they find someone they like and seems to deliver what they want. They have confidence and they want to do something that's not Skywalker. Great, all the power to them.
Well, I wonder what makes it Star Wars then. I don't particularly like the universe outside of the Star Wars Skywalker saga. Like, I definitely don't.
But have
like
you
the
seen it?
What?
Have you seen a canon?
Yeah, I have. That's my problem. Is that I think KOTOR is really crappy with that. I don't like the prequel.
But that's not canon.
Wow.
I know it's not canon, but it's crappy, and like I don't.
Boy.
The game might be fun, but that universe is just cheesy.
Well, there's some really good, especially in the books, the new books that are canon right now. Like the new Thrawn book was fantastic. There's a Phasma book. I realize Phasma's in the Skywalker universe, but Phasma's a very good book too. So there's all these great stories that are there.
That's
they
reassuring.
they just need the proper stories.
And that's what worked for Marvel, is that there's tidbits of these amazing writers that took on like kind of dumpy Marvel comics in the 80s and might have had a good run with them, and that's what is inspiring the best movies now, and like that's what Star Wars hopefully has with the extended universe stuff.
Sorry, I know like we should
one more comment.
Okay. I'm excited at the opportunity to see what Star Wars is without the Skywalkers.
I am too.
Because I think that it makes the universe feel very small, that we need 9 movies based around this one family.
I would
Agree with that.
All right, moving on. The name of the game today for publishers is to figure out how to get consumers to pay more than $60 for their games. Just keep paying them more forever, hopefully. And on a financial update from Take-Two, this week we learned their particular term for this endeavor. We're learning that different publishers have different ways of describing this business practice. Take-Two calls it recurrent consumer spending. That's their nomenclature for it. And they said that GTA 5 is the single largest contributor to recurrent consumer spending, that alongside NBA 2K18. And I hope you guys are comfortable with that, because that is going to be baked into every game that Take-Two releases going forward.
Good, great.
Does that terminology make you feel better than microtransaction? Do you think it's a better spin?
No, I don't think so. I think actually microtransactions sounds better than that.
So what are some Take-Two games that this could happen with?
Well, so obviously it's already happening with GTA 5. It's definitely going to happen with Red Dead Redemption 2.
So Red Dead, we think that could happen.
And NBA 2K18 had more aggressive microtransactions.
No,
the recurrent consumer spending hooks built into it.
The quote from Take-Two's CEO Strauss Zelnick is, "We aim to have recurrent consumer spending options for every title that we put out at this company." Mm-hmm. So everything. And then next year, it is worth noting, they say. They hinted at they have something more than Red Dead Redemption 2. The quote, again, is, "Looking ahead, we expect fiscal 2019 to be a record year for net bookings and net cash provided by operating activities led by the upcoming launches of Red Dead Redemption 2 and a highly anticipated new title from one of 2K's biggest franchises."
He said, I don't know what their fiscal year is.
It goes into like early 2019.
Yeah. So the only thing, you're right. You mumbled it. It's somebody, maybe BioShock, maybe Borderlands. It's so obviously Borderlands.
Those are the only two
already
it
announced.
could be, right?
Yeah, even though it went into production in 2015 officially, I think Borderlands 3 could be done by then. But they really talk that game up like it needs to be this huge different experience.
So, but that's the part that gets me, is the timeline of it. It felt a little soon. But I don't know. Who knows? Whatever is going on at these companies. If I were a betting man, which I am, I would say that it's Borderlands.
I mean, it makes me feel a little better that it might be Borderlands, because taking those two ideas separate, like 2K is going to bring back one of its biggest franchises. I'm like, oh, I want a new BioShock game, but a new BioShock game with recurrent consumer spending, like, you know, that game is such an isolated experience.
It's like a
the
monkey's
first one is
paw
special.
wish.
Yeah, it's like you can defeat this if you just spend $5 to get your loot box, or like whatever version of it is. I don't know. It is a little, it makes me feel a little jaded to the idea that every single game from here on out is not only going to not be an isolated experience, going back to Visceral being shut down with their Star Wars game, but also that they're going to try and like get all this extra money out of you. When I play Destiny, like I'm not spending anything extra to get emotes or anything. It's such a,
You don't want those? You don't want the Carlton dance?
no, I did like cool. I like when
Yeah.
people do the table flips and stuff and the cards or whatever else, but I just don't care. That's not what the gameplay is for me. But clearly, people are spending money on it. That is in GTA 5 being a prime
Really?
example.
You do that?
I'm a part of the problem. I love customization. So Assassin's Creed Origins, which I love, they have these really nice costumes. And they're really expensive. And when I have money, I want to upgrade my weapons. I have choices. Like either upgrade your weapons, you get this really fly-looking piece of armor that looks great in the desert. And I'm like, I'm gonna get my weapons updated. I'm gonna drop $20 on this gold package that lets me buy. I mean, it's horrible, and I realize it's a problem, but I do it because I like that. I like that stuff.
That's, I guess, is the question though.
I'm a part of
Like,
the
do you
problem.
like it, or do you feel like you're like, oh, you're trying to juice me like dry with you know having?
Well, I mean, I get a little upset, but at the same time, like, look, I'm contributing. I'm willingly doing this, so I'm not going to get mad at them. I mean, I get why they do it, you know, and realize games are expensive to make, and they have to find some way to subsidize a $6 cost for games. I think so. I get it, but it's still it is bothersome. It's a lot of money.
know,
It's a lot of money to get a piece of cloth.
I secretly am too. I'm now realizing, because I buy amiibo, and that's what the amiibo do in Mario. They give you costumes that otherwise cost a lot, or they just allow you to cheat. And that's exactly what we're complaining about in these other games. For $10, you can get any of the amiibo just drop in hearts, and then the princess one drops in the 6 heart.
Yeah, it's totally a win button for
it's
certain
totally a
parts
win
of Mario.
Which is like that's the exact same scheme, but at least I have a little dumb figure to put on my desk.
Well, I was going to say, like, I guess this is confession circle now, but like, I won't do it for a $60 game, but like, I definitely bought Pokemon Go stuff to get up, and like Candy Crush, I would buy extra hearts, and like
Pokemon
the
Go,
Sailor
those are
Moon
free games
garments.
though, so I feel a lot less guilty about spending up to the limit of that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. No, it's
Justin does
totally
this all the time.
No, goodness gracious,
Well,
no.
for like Star Wars cards and stuff.
That's true.
a little bit different.
Confess,
But I also, I sold.
Except this one giant example.
I sold Star Wars cards on eBay though.
Yeah, that's true. No,
Wheeling and dealing.
Yeah.
it's real money. Take-Two says recurrent consumer spending is 42% of our net bookings in the quarter. I don't know if net bookings just means revenue.
Yeah.
I haven't heard the term, but that means that
Is that saying microtransactions are half their
almost half of their revenue.
All
the money that they're coming.
I don't know what the
bigger than
quarter. They might not have released a game that quarter. I don't know if NBA, you know, again, it depends on where
that's
what
true,
the
that's
cutoff
true.
point is. If they didn't release a
still.
title,
you see like the long life on GTA 5 and all that element. I mean, we see it here. That's one of our top wikis that people still come to. So I can imagine how
and
much.
the online updates are a big deal, but a lot of them are free, but a
like-
lot of them cost money.
But I can see the success of that driving a decision.
well, that's exactly right. I mean, GTA Online is remarkable. You know, that's a 5-year-old game that, you know, the updates that first started coming out for GTA Online were kind of ticky-tacky, like new guns and costumes. But they're really meaty and weighty now with new story missions, new locations, new, like the things that you can do in that game. I've talked about it on GameScoop before. There's a GTA 5 sequel inside GTA 5 because of the amount of stuff that they've added to it. Like, that's incredible, and it's funded by people buying these, you know, $100 shark cards. So I like everything, you know, I'm sort of two minds, and it's a nuanced, complicated issue where it's neat that exists and is able to subsidize the creation of this content that millions of people can enjoy, but it's maybe not so great that, you know, there's people out there that have dropped thousands of dollars on GTA 5 cash that then, you know, can be stolen from them if they're not careful.
Yeah, and it's sort of funny too that like using myself as an example, it sounds so corporate and you know like greedy to say those terms, even microtransaction. But like I clearly have blinders onto my own spending for it, and like we all just went down the line pretty much confessing, like either realizing or not, oh, I guess we have been contributing money.
Yeah, that's
in that
the
way.
exact psychology that's behind this, and we've talked about this before. But it definitely preys on people that are prone to gambling and stuff like that too. There's a lot of problems with it.
I mean, game development's really hard and expensive, and companies are going out of business all the time. Telltale laid off a bunch of staff. So, Damon, you said, or maybe someone else mentioned, you can't begrudge a company. They got to make money, right? They got to pay their employees. But from a consumer perspective, like it's worse. Gaming is worse in this sense than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It used to be you played a game 100 hours and you paid the $60. But now the more you play, the more pressure you're going to feel to transact in that game. Like that was the point of the Take-Two quote was like, if we keep you in our game, there's going to be more opportunities for us to monetize you.
Yeah.
And it didn't used to be that way.
They're totally upfront about it. I love these quotes from the CEO of Take-Two because they give direct insight into how they're planning to make money off of us and off of you, the listeners and viewers. He says the business that once upon a time was a big chunky opportunity to engage for tens of hours or perhaps 100 hours has turned into an ongoing engagement day after day, week after week. You fall in love with these titles and they become part of your daily life. And that's true. With I think there are a lot of people now that just play one game. Just every day. They just play Destiny or Overwatch or League of Legends.
They play one community game, but play other games by
Maybe
themselves.
that's what it is.
Well, I think you go back to
maybe
games
that's
too, right? Like you diverge with Stardew Valley or Odyssey, but then you go back to the game that
The thing that's just a part of your
Destiny,
life.
Dota, League, stuff like that.
I think that's like an underrated influence. Like everyone talks about League of Legends and how it, through a long and winding path gave rise to games like Overwatch and like hero-based shooters. But like another influence is people that only play one game. Like, I only play Destiny, I only play League, I only play Dota, or, maybe dabble in some other stuff, but then have this recurrent thing. And like that, now that's games as a service, right? Like that's what everything wants to be or strives to be.
Yeah. Especially this time of year, it's just so hard to figure out, what you want to spend your dollars on, because obviously money's precious and there's a ton of titles coming out this time of year. It's like, what do I pick? Do I have that one game? Do I have my Call of Duty, World War II? I'm just going to dive into and do that for the next, 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, for sure.
I will give Nintendo all my money for Animal Crossing. I'll play Animal Crossing Switch for the rest of my life.
But not mobile?
I mean, I'll try mobile too.
And for those keeping track at home for physical sales versus digital sales, Take-Two now says full game downloads on consoles account for 35% of all Take-Two sales.
How does that compare to console sales? Do we have that number?
No, that's their console sales.
Oh, gotcha.
Full game downloads on consoles is 35% of all of Take-Two sales.
So they're also making much more money off that than they make off their retail games.
Yeah. Interesting.
I can go on the record and say $60 is just fine for these games still. I think that's a high-end, crazy number because they can't sell all the games they want to sell.
Yeah, well, isn't it true? Like that number hasn't really changed much either in a
20
while.
years.
Yeah.
Well, not 20 years.
Yeah, it was more. I mean, I paid $70 for Mortal Kombat on the Nintendo 64.
So it's the inflation.
Yeah, but
comes
that was
from the
different because
additional-
that was like cartridges. Certain cartridges were more expensive.
Games were $60 in the 90s.
I forgot how
Some
much
were,
N64 games were too.
Yeah,
they
certain
were
ones.
pricey.
I think
Nintendo
the
64 got
standard,
to 75.
Yeah.
the standard became $60 with the Xbox 360.
You're right. That's right. Yeah.
And games I think last much longer now as well. So I think you see that sort of invisible inflation with expansions and microtransactions or whatever.
Yeah.
Three-word terminology.
Recurrent
nowadays.
consumer spending is what Take-Two calls it.
Rolls off the
but
tongue.
Ubisoft has a different term for it. They call it player recurring investment.
Investment.
Yeah, PRI.
Wow.
I just wish it was more like, I love what CD Projekt Red did with The Witcher. And they released 2 really big DLCs. One was a 10-hour chunk. The other one was about a 20 to 30-hour chunk. And it wasn't too expensive. It was one of those things that the content was good, the story was excellent. It's like that I would pay for all the time. Just give me more story.
That
Hopefully
game got
Zelda
made
will
in
have that.
Poland, though, not in San Francisco.
True, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the cost of living in Poland is.
Yeah, let's just shift game development over to Poland for everyone.
Can we shift Game Scoop over to Poland?
Yeah, for a week
Wait,
special.
Wait.
I'm willing to try it. Castles,
We'll come.
Yeah.
good beer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
See?
I like castles and beer.
Yeah, me too.
Castles and beer sounds like a good.
Yeah.
There's got to be something there. let's shift over to Resident Evil 7. That's one of my favorite games of this year. That game is really good. Came out
It
earlier
stands
this year.
out, right? When you look back at the year, I'm like, oh, that was a really good Resident Evil game and a lot of fun.
Definitely like
That's a period I wouldn't walk through my living room because my boyfriend would be playing it and it would scare the crap out of me.
No, they swung it. They swung it a little bit back towards survival horror, and it has like lots of like genuinely creepy moments and just really like cool, bizarro set pieces, like boss fights and stuff. They're just
A
really
bug
cool.
boss.
Well, I love the garage boss.
No,
fight.
it's really funny.
Maybe the
awesome.
first AAA VR game.
Maybe, yeah. It's really
Like
good.
in terms of like actual big budget, big
Yeah, I think so.
full length adventure.
Yeah, and it's maybe at least the first like known IP big VR game.
The opening sequence, I love. I mean, it's just like feels like Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
master
for
like with the crazy family in the woods and all that.
it's
It's
awesome.
terrifying.
And the police officer shows up and is completely ineffective.
Yep.
Got all that.
You doing okay in there?
This week, Capcom announced they've sold 4.1 million copies of Resident Evil 7 as
But
of
how does that
September
compare?
30th. Well, Justin, 4.1 million copies makes it tied for 7th place for Capcom, tied with Monster Hunter 4, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, and Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Wait, just 7th all time for Capcom?
Yeah.
Oh.
All 4 of those games have sold 4.1 million copies. Resident Evil 5 remains the best-selling Capcom game, 7.2 million units.
5 was the Africa one? 6
Yes.
was
Yeah,
the Africa
That was the one that
No,
people thought was.
5 was.
5 was the one that people thought was more too. Like, it was like an action game. It was more of an action than a survival
Yeah,
horror.
the first time they went
Yeah.
more
I think it's as good as
action
7.
co-op.
I put those
well,
on the same level.
Well, I much prefer 7, but that's fine.
Do you think this translates into them doubling down on the horror moving
Well,
forward?
so I want to point out, so they brought it back to survival horror, but it didn't. It sold a little more than half of Resident Evil 5. It didn't even reach the sales of Resident Evil 6. So I don't know. Maybe that tells it. What does that tell Capcom? What is Capcom supposed to take away from that?
That they lost a lot of people after 6.
So you think that's just a lot of people were burned?
Yeah, I had total distrust
feel like
in
this
this
is-
game when 7 came out. I was like, are you kidding me?
I was
6
very
so
surprised.
bad.
I was very surprised with how good 7 is.
Yeah, I had to have like 3 people in the office play it and then convince me to buy it.
So did 7 stop the bleeding, or is
I
it
think
a
that's what
sign
it is.
that or it sold way worse than 5 and 6? So maybe going back to survival horror was not the right thing. to
Yeah,
do.
I don't know.
Well, I'm also curious how this stacks up against things like Evil Within 2 and some of the other
yeah.
horror games that came out this year that people did like in our franchises that they have trust in. Because I think there's clear interest in the survival horror genre, but is Resident Evil the foremost example of it anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. Also, it's worth comparing. So Resident Evil 7 sells 4.1 million copies. The best-selling Capcom game of all time, Resident Evil 5, sold 7.2 million. So 7.2 million. Capcom, a developer that's been around for 3 decades at least, that's the best-selling game they've ever had. Whereas PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds,
Yeah.
a game that isn't even out yet and is totally janky and busted, is 20 million copies of that game just this year.
3
More fried
Capcoms.
chicken.
3 of Capcom's number 1 selling games.
Yeah, just this year alone. It's
they must have
insane.
lost count of how many of those Mega Man 2s are out there. Every time I see a box of Nintendo
Crazy.
games.
I can't believe that Capcom doesn't have a 10 million seller.
It's crazy, right? They're like
Yeah.
one of the longest running developers. Like,
Especially like what I mean,
Street Fighter
joking
2?
aside, like how many times has Street Fighter 2 been sold?
Maybe they count all those
mean,
separately. Sure.
Yeah.
they do count
I mean,
separately.
come on.
Yeah, I mean, if you
those,
want to lump
those
them all up,
definitely lump up to something.
maybe.
We
I'm
can
sure.
do the math.
Yeah, well, we can figure that
Scoop.
out. But I just think
Future scoop.
it's a sign of the
Math
times.
scoop.
It's a sign of the times because Resident Evil 7 is a AAA, big budget, single player linear game, and it has a fraction of the sales of something like PUBG. People are taking note of that, and that's why recurrent consumer spending is a thing.
I think consumers are they're smart, you know. They're
What's
bright.
that?
The consumers are smart. I mean, they come to IGN and see all the great content and articles, and and they're seeing the patterns and what games are getting
hope
good.
so.
reviews. I mean, I think they're understanding what's going on. I think
They're being played.
yeah, sometimes.
Well, I think it is interesting.
Super
too,
scoop.
Yeah.
Because it's differing perspectives. Like for me, I have so much TV and film that I have to watch for work, that takes up a lot of my downtime that I'm like, okay, I want a game that I don't need to play daily. I don't necessarily have the time and real estate in my day to do that. But a lot of people who come to IGN want that game that they can play daily. And so when we sit there and we say, oh, like Firewatch was amazing because it was a really solid 7-hour experience, I think other people are like, okay, but why am I spending $60 for that?
For sure.
And you want something like Player
We all had eras in our lives where we did play those games. I mean, mine was way back in Perfect Dark GoldenEye, but like that's what I wanted to do after every college day, you know? And so like that's a big deal to have like community games. It's just a different people than probably us as critics who have to play millions of things all the time, you know.
And I think there's a space for both. Like, I don't think that the answer is shut down every studio that's developing like single player linear game that doesn't have all these extra elements. But I hope that I always feel like I hope that the developers are taking the right lessons away from this in the studios. Maybe it's not just that, PlayerUnknown Battleground costs X amount of money to make and make this much, so let's make a lot of ripoffs of it. It's like, what made that successful? What did it tap into that other games weren't doing that? Yeah. Same with Overwatch, right? What did it
100% taking the wrong lesson.
Right, and that's what's
but that's what happened with guitar games and with everything else.
Right.
And bubbles burst. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, moving on. The next Hitman game is already in development. The Game of the Year edition of Hitman 2016 is out this week.
IO Interactive, man, back from the dead. They were never dead, but
they were never dead. But they're back on their own.
Yeah,
they're back in an independent studio.
Bought Hitman back.
They bought Hitman back from Square Enix, and now they're making the next Hitman on their own. In a blog post that went along with the Game of the Year edition this week, they announced they're making great progress, and we have exciting new features and some franchise firsts in the new Hitman. Although they said we don't plan to start talking about that until some point in 2018.
The Hitman's gonna have hair.
Twist.
Spoilers.
Scoop.
Come on, we have to have the bald guys. I mean, we gotta give them some support. You know,
I'm gonna give him a big old beard.
It's gonna be microtransactions. You gotta pay attention to stuff.
Genius.
So I wonder if they'll stick with the episodic format
for
the next Hitman, because I think there was some public outcry against that, but I think the game was successful.
It's got to be on the hunt. We actually just ran this feature. I wonder if Hitman was on it. But like most improved games, like that game came out and then no content had like one chapter. It was so thin.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, we're gonna build on it over time. And everyone said, yeah, right. But then lo and behold, they just cranked on that game
ends
for
up being
months
very
and
robust.
months and months, and it turned into like a huge game.
And those like episodic releases were such fun like group experiences. I knew we would have everyone come over and like go around and try and beat them and kill people successfully in the best way. I don't know. I hadn't seen a game experience quite like that in that way in a while, and I thought it was really fun, though. Whether it translated to the widest audience.
I mean, I'm glad to see. I respect IO Interactive having like a unique vision for like this kind of Hitman style game that they want to make. I personally don't. I think those games are clunky and not very fun, but. As a puzzle, like they're puzzle games, right? Like stealth puzzle games, like they're doing something wholly unlike anyone else. And I hope, and I know that there's a big audience of people that love it. So I'm pleased that, they're having an opportunity to bring that back around to people. But every 3 or 4 or 5 years I try to play Hitman and I'm just like, I can't get into it.
But that was the episodic nature of this previous release actually brought me back into the series because I'm not a big fan of the series originally, but because it was like, one episode's $15, like I'll try one. It's not, I'll try one, see what happens. So I mean, that brought me into it. So if they do it again, I would love for them to do that because I don't know if I would drop a straight $60 on a Hitman game.
Do we know? Like, are they going to be once again doing it episodically? Or?
They haven't announced yet, but I would guess that they'll stick with that because maybe they'll take what they learned from this first experiment, improve it. Plus, now that they're an independent studio again, they don't have the backing of Square Enix, and it would be cheaper to put out one episode first, right? And then keep funding the rest of the
with
games.
Microtransactions.
With the current consumer spending.
For your beards.
Beard DLC.
Yeah, exactly.
Beard DLC.
Was it just last year that the Hitman movie was out? Was that 2016?
No, it was 2015.
It was 2 years ago.
2015, yeah.
Are there 2 Hitman movies?
Yes.
Hitman. Yeah. Wait. Oh yeah. The first one's the dude from Deadwood, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the second one's the dude
Homeland.
From Homeland.
Rupert Friend.
And Pride and Prejudice.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a bit of a British movies fan. Sorry.
I like it.
Sorry.
I saw Paddington last weekend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There you go. Yeah.
What's your hot take?
Surprisingly good.
Yeah.
It was better than it had any right to be, I think.
I like Paddington.
Very charming.
Paddington was a movie I was very surprised at its second life. But like Alana and Max got really into it as well when it was on Netflix.
Yeah,
and I was like,
that's where we watched it.
I never expected
It was totally
that
good.
this would be the film that people really came around to.
Secret horror movie?
Its episodic nature and microtransactions really make it a great consumer experience on Netflix.
There was a point when Nicole Kidman is shooting blow darts at Paddington, and my 5-year-old niece thought that was very scary, and she wanted to turn it off. Thought they were trying to kill Paddington, and she wanted to stop watching.
Spoilers? Is okay for the 5-year-old watching at home?
Fine. It's time to check in with our moon collecting in Mario Odyssey.
Hey, moon collecting.
Oh boy.
What are we all up to? I'm up to around 450 myself.
I don't know. I'm closing in on 600. I think I'm at like 570, 580.
Okay, there you go.
I think I'm
over
winding.
the
I think my
650
time.
mark.
I think I'm
You're
winding
over
down.
60. Sam is over 650.
And I've 100%ed more of the worlds than I haven't.
Okay.
So I'm over that.
Yeah, but does that count like the Ruined Kingdom?
What do you mean?
Well, like those aren't real worlds.
Oh, I haven't really done the small
Not
worlds.
even
I did
purple
the cloud
coins in
one.
there.
But Sand Kingdom, Metro,
Yeah.
Moon, and almost Mushroom I've 100%ed, along with the little ones between those. So Lost, I don't know, all of those worlds.
Awesome.
But I haven't done the food one yet.
The
That's going to take a lot of 100%ing.
And someone wrote in asking why we were hating on the Luncheon Kingdom a little bit last week.
It's the worst one in the game.
I don't
It's
really.
a great game.
I
I
thought
mean,
the
I'm not
kingdom.
hungry right now.
I thought the kingdom was perfectly fun, but I just think visually it's the least interesting and the least detailed. Like
Yeah.
there's this giant bowl of stew, and there's just like colored blocks floating in it. It's not like compare that to the beautifully rendered food in Final Fantasy 15. It's like
I also think the possessions are some of the least interesting and fun in the game. I don't want to. It's totally fine. Like
Possessions.
it's the
what they
least.
are.
It's the least good part
Captures.
of a game that's excellent all around, in my opinion.
Terry, I know you started playing it.
I started playing it literally last night so that I could have something to say for this segment.
Lay it on us. First impressions.
First impressions, it's great.
Yeah.
I stayed up too late, which is why I was told I had glassy eyes all day. It's because I stayed up until 1 and had like a 7 a.m. flight with David to get up to San Francisco. I can't wait to keep playing it. It is the game that I wanted after Super Mario Sunshine that Super Mario Galaxy wasn't.
Just took 15 years is all.
Yeah, but
I agree with this.
Circles, background, and David and I had a chance to play actually pre-release briefly and get some hands-on time. So I'm like, I tried to press B but pressed A instead. So I chose the Lake Kingdom. That's my next one of the divergent choices. I have no idea what
Spoilers.
stew you're talking about.
That's later.
But I look forward to it and complete because I know that you complete the game like fairly early on, and then it's going back and collecting all the moons out. Yeah. So to answer your question, like 22 moons.
22
but
minutes, that's
climbing.
great. For one night of play?
For one night of play.
Now, are you guys talking about? Is there some kind of remastered NES version we're talking about now? Is this
Of Mario?
Yeah, what is
Super
it? No.
Mario.
So I always been somebody who's like just kind of put Nintendo to the side. I have my PlayStation, my Xbox. My
Nobody
PC.
puts Nintendo in a corner.
I know, and I'm like, I'm not gonna get a Switch. I'm not gonna get one of those. We went to that. I got to play a little pre-release, and I was just blown away. It was incredible.
Yeah, you
I haven't
get
played
the
like some FIFA on there and everything, and just seen all these games. I'm like, wow, this is a lot of fun. I can imagine being in the plane, playing one of these. So
It's the best.
I am going to get a Switch hopefully for Christmas.
I hear
I'm gonna ask Sam for
you're
one.
saying they're in stock?
I don't know about at this moment, but yeah,
They were when you bought it
they've
last
been
week,
in
which is
stock
great.
on Amazon for a couple weeks now, and
That's
I
awesome.
suspect that the closer we get to Black Friday,
Probably should get one now.
like now is the window. They could possibly already be gone, but they were in stock for like 7 days.
That's
I'm a
really cool.
relatively new Switch owner, and so, but I haven't found the personal balance for it yet because, like, I find I've been playing a lot of Stardew Valley again, but I will obsessively play until like 2 a.m. I'm like, this is a bad life choice. It's Wednesday. I need to be in the office tomorrow, and so I'm not good with like Zelda and Mario thus far, like to pick it up and put it back down in the portable sense. So I've gone on some trips where I was like, oh, I should play this here, but I'm like, no, because I won't be able to stop, and I'll need to deplane.
You can be like Marty, who played 60 hours of Zelda, but only on flights. He never played that game in any other context except.
That's
on
how
that.
much Marty
discipline.
flies.
Yeah,
He travels
so.
so much.
He did a lot of travel this year.
Yeah.
The thing about the Switch, I want every game on the Switch. I caught up. There's this really great YouTuber, Mark Brown, that does like good essays on video games, and just watching like a Twilight Princess. I'm like, man, I want that on the Switch. Like Smash Brothers, I want that on the Switch. Like
Destiny, when I got
WarioWare.
it, I was like, why couldn't this be released on the Switch as well? And I regret getting
that console
Stardew
just
on
does
PS4
something to
now.
you. It's like once you get one, you just want every game in that form factor.
You know what's crazy is that Borderlands 2 came out on Vita. So when we
I
were
want Borderlands 2 on the Switch.
Yeah, put it on the Switch.
yeah,
Play that
so
again.
when we were, but also like Borderlands 3, like
Yeah.
they took the time to port a contemporary game to Vita that was like a big multiplayer game, like that. They could put Borderlands 3 on the
Well,
Switch.
Skyrim is the big example of it, right? Like that is the the port to Switch and how many people will play it and buy it. And that's, I mean, we're coming up to that crazy November 17th release date for Punisher and Justice League and everything else. But I'm really interested to see, coming back after the holidays, how well that performs. And like, if we see a lot of other developers saying, okay, we're going to bring these sprawling games to the Switch as well that haven't existed in Nintendo in the past.
I didn't think I had any interest in playing Skyrim again, but I do have a flight to Tokyo coming up. So I got Skyrim on my
could beat
Switch. Yeah, just play Skyrim again, the whole for 10 hours, make this flight fly by.
Because you're going to give up on Mario.
I mean, not give
No, he's
up.
gonna max
He told me he
it.
came into work. He said,
Give up is
I
not
think
the
I'm
right
done
word.
with Mario.
Well, I think I'm just going to keep collecting moons until I just feel like I'm done.
I think,
I feel like when I get 500 moons, that's enough.
My time with it is winding down for sure.
Is there a maximum?
nuts.
Like I saw that.
999.
Okay, so
Yes,
Brian
but you can
hit
buy
999.
more.
Yeah,
So
but it doesn't.
there's-
Your counter doesn't go up anymore.
There's 800 and some, 830 or 880 that you can actually like earn from playing the game, but then you can keep buying more.
This is my like first opportunity to talk now, having played some of it. But I don't know how I feel about like you can buy them in bulk.
I don't
towards the
really
end.
like
I'm
that either.
It's an odd mechanic. I actually don't necessarily understand the purpose of it because they don't even
it's for
keep, they
people
don't,
who don't want to go around collecting, right?
but they don't have any use past.
Well, if
Isn't
you
it
need like
like
10
the
more to
moon or
unlock the
something?
next kingdom,
Yeah.
you could just buy
Yeah.
them.
And
But-
there are later in the game, there's marks where you have to get to 500 and stuff like that.
Right.
So to make up that spread, maybe it's too hard for some people. Did you guys know you can just turn on a mode in that game where if you fall off a cliff, it puts you back in a bubble?
Yeah, there's a baby mode in that game. for
yeah,
sure.
and that like it gives you 6 hearts all the time, and you can just turn that on anytime you want too. So you don't even need amiibo to scan.
It's like hack into it or anything. It's just like
No, it's just when
It's just
it's in
there.
options.
That's
menu.
the first time like Nintendo definitely didn't do that with Zelda. So I'm wondering why they chose to do that with Mario.
Yeah, maybe the audience skews a little bit younger with Mario. I don't know.
yeah.
I have one observation to make about Mario. I love the Goombet missions or
great little
star.
puzzles.
in
She has a
every-
great hat.
you probably haven't encountered these yet.
have
There's a
not.
female Goomba in every level who's looking for love, and you have to capture one or more Goombas and maneuver them over to her.
And there's usually a little puzzle, like it's not just like capture Goomba and there's Goombet. Like you have to
Figure out
there's
how
a
to get
trick
them to her,
involved to like getting the Goomba where you need to get
She
them.
doesn't want just 4. Sometimes she wants 10. So you have to stack up 10 Goombas.
She's up high.
I will say a hot take early on because I know some people who are farther in the game. My one thing that I'm not loving about it is like how almost backwards the story is. Oh, you need to go save Peach from being married to Bowser, and like that's
It's
sort
almost
of it.
creepier with that angle compared to him
marriage,
just
forced marriage.
kidnapping her.
Yeah, and like there's like I did like the ring thing is like where I'm at right now. I don't know. I kept waiting for people to tell me that there was more to it than that, and I get like the mechanics are great, but I mean Zelda had a beautiful story for Breath of the Wild, and even like going back to Super Mario Sunshine, there was a lot more to what that narrative was. But for this one, I was like, I'm surprised that there wasn't more of a resistance to again like the oversimplification of a story. I thought we sort of
It's
moved
very
past it.
simple.
Yeah.
And the rabbits are the wedding planners.
I did get to that
Evil
part.
wedding
They're-
planners.
What are they like the
The Brutals?
Brutals, yeah.
The evil wedding planners.
Yeah.
But the Goombet thing, I think, it's a really sad story
Oh.
because Goombet is like all alone in her level, all by herself. There's nobody else that's like her. She's just, looking for someone she can connect with. And when Mario captures someone and presents them to her, she's like, I finally found my person. I finally found my other half. I'm
then
so
Mario's
happy.
like,
Mario
"Screw
jumps out and stomps on them and murders them right in front of her
I
eyes.
always
think-
just leave him there to hang out.
Well, if you,
But you know what happens
you might
if you
hop
do
out
that?
and-
Damon kills
She
them
runs
every
away.
single
Yeah,
time.
she runs away.
So then, yeah.
Either way, her dream is dashed.
Yes, exactly.
Very
Maybe
sad.
Mario Odyssey is secretly an allegory for catfishing in the way that Thor Ragnarok is
so.
for colonialism.
I think so. I think you're right.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
I think you're
I could
right
write an
about
essay
that.
about that.
Yeah, perfect.
One of the Goombets is so far across the desert
Yeah,
from where the
the desert.
Goombas are, and you just get in the Scuba and you just walk.
Yep, I did.
That's what
I just
I'm like,
walked the
sure-
whole way.
I'm like, surely there
funny.
must
You
be
walk across the desert
Yeah.
to get to
there
her.
must be another way. And it's like,
And then
nope,
she's
That's-
thrilled.
that's a
and then you
list.
hop out and you're like, ah! And then she disappears and you crush them.
Yep.
The most mundane things video games have made me do.
Yeah.
it's
And one of our coworkers called Goombas Roombas several times the other day.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Not sure
out
if it
them.
was on purpose.
It was Darren
or
Brazil.
not.
it was not on purpose.
Someone who's not part of our regular editorial team.
Wow. Yeah.
He knows Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah. All right. We got some great fan art this week. Look at this one. This
This
is
is
so impressive.
cool.
That's
Bring up-
incredible.
Bring up the close up here. We've got this Ninja Turtles
Up on
fan
Soul
art.
Store.
It's so good. I would pay money for this.
You
I would pay money
can.
for this.
You can, yeah.
Just include it in that envelope and send it back.
Return address.
And this came from
Oh.
this is
That's
from
really
Jeffrey Stephen in Alberta, Canada. It's so good. He sent a letter here. I'll hold up the art so you can admire it. I love that all 4 turtles are shouting GameScoop and the address there.
That's great.
It's really good. So I hope you all are well. I love the show. Always have it playing in my headphones while I'm at the drawing table. While you guys asked for envelope art, I started to laugh because it reminded me when I was a child, I had a subscription to Nintendo Power magazine and finally got enough nerve to send in some envelope art. I spent the better part of 2 days working on a TMNT piece. My mother took me to the post office, sent it to the good old USA. The lady working at the counter got me to fill out the info for sending international post. After paying for postage, she took the envelope and without looking placed a large international stick over the drawing. I never sent in another piece of envelope art again until now. Now I can close a dark chapter in my life.
But I wonder if his art is in Nintendo Power.
Yeah.
Well, with the big
Yeah,
international
with the big
sticker on it?
international
Yeah.
sticker.
That's great. Thank you for sending that to us.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, I really like the, is it silver highlight?
I don't know. It's awesome. I want to look.
the
It's
shading,
Jeffrey.
yeah, it looks, wow.
He didn't include a website, but I'd love to look up more of his work.
seriously,
he's got his
definitely wanna
email
see the
here.
rest of your
I'm going to
work.
reach out to him over email, see if he's.
So-
We may be seeing him in future comic book artist right here.
yeah.
This is
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
It's awesome. All right, and that brings us to video game 20 questions. David, do you know how this works?
No.
All right. You know how the game
Terrifying.
20
You get
questions?
5 extra questions.
Do you know how the game 20 questions works?
I
Usually you're thinking of a thing.
You asked 20 questions?
And then you have 20 yes or no questions
Oh,
to
okay.
guess the thing. In this case, it's a video game. We've got our listener sent in a suggestion. Jonathan.
I know, it's so stressful. I was here last time and I shut down emotionally.
Yeah.
Jonathan.
But we
from-
won.
Yeah, not thanks to me.
Jonathan from Colorado sent in this week's suggestion.
Good.
Let the questioning begin.
All right,
does-
well, let's just set this.
We get
Do
20
we
questions
want to
each?
win this or do we want to have fun?
Let's see how
Because
far we
it
get.
all
in
depends
10.
on what Justin's about to say.
If it has not been apparent by now, I strictly play this show just to spoof and goof as much as possible.
because he's been asking a lot of questions about hats recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're back in-
Are
we're-
we just waiting for it to be Mario
This,
Odyssey?
years from now, this will be known as my second hat period.
Yes.
Can we call this Spoofs and Goofs now?
The Hat
Yeah,
Dynasty.
spoofs and goofs.
20
Hat
questions,
Dynasty.
Spoofs and Goofs edition.
Can you see your character's hands?
Yes.
Is this game from before the year 2000?
No.
Is it a console exclusive?
Yes.
We got it. What is
wait,
it?
No, go back
We
around.
all
I'll
know
come
what
up
it
with
is,
the question.
Gary. You have to.
Is it from the Wii, PS3, 360 console era?
No.
Is it from the Now era?
The now era. Can you be more specific?
Is it from the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC Forever era?
And Switch.
Yes.
Switch era.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's 5
Current
questions.
contemporary game.
Contemporary game.
Is it a third-person game?
Yes.
Does a character wear a hat?
Ooh.
A character?
Does the main character wear a hat?
Does the main character wear a hat? No.
By the way, as an aside, last week, last week I said, does your character wear a hat? And David said yes. And I said, is the hat functional? Does it serve a specific purpose, like, protection, or is it ornamentary? And David said functional. And then I filed an official grievance because the game was Sneak King and you were Burger King and he wears a crown. I'm like, that's not functional.
That's not
But
functional.
it could be that his whole mask is his head.
It's
He has that
substantial,
giant
Well,
but it's
so
not
ceramic
then
thing
we
on.
got in, like, it got pretty esoteric, and
Yeah.
we got, because then it's like, are you a man wearing a Burger King
Yeah.
mask, or are you the actual king? And then
My reasoning for the functional thing is that its function is to signify royalty, but maybe I'm incorrect.
by the way, where are we? So you don't wear a hat.
It's a
Hey,
third-person game, console exclusive.
Is it exclusive? Is it a PS4 exclusive?
Yes.
Is it made in Japan?
No.
Oh boy.
Is it multiplayer?
No.
That's a good one.
That's 10.
Do you play as a woman?
Yes.
I bet it's Horizon. But wait, so by the
Can
way,
you-
it was extra rule: if you guess the game, but then it's not the game, you lose. So
Yeah,
you need
you
to
gotta
be
be
pretty
pretty
sure
confident.
before.
Okay.
Does this take place in the future?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you take down giant robot dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Sure do.
Yay!
Horizon Zero Dawn. You got there.
You didn't
Good.
do the DLC?
No, it was not Horizon Zero Dawn Frozen Wild. No, that was
it cold?
the, suggestion from Jonathan from Colorado.
Nice.
I think you took
one.
it pretty easy on us. I will take it, but
Well, I knew it was going to be David's first time. I wanted to be gentle with him.
Yeah, that wasn't too
I
bad.
didn't make it too
Yeah,
difficult.
wasn't
and
too
also
bad.
break the losing streak.
I
Yeah,
also
that's true. Yeah.
played a heck of a lot of that game, so
Yeah?
I
It's
should
a
have
great
contributed
game.
more. But I had one good question and one that I stole from Dustin.
That's okay.
She
The
might wear a
hat one?
The multiplayer
like
one, well, but the
one.
multiplayer question is
Multiplayer's
good.
great.
Yeah.
That's good. No, I want to get back to that game now that Frozen Wilds is out. I haven't gotten to yet.
Same.
Same.
But
I will get to that DLC eventually because I have some crops I need to tend to in Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
Like I am on year 2. It's getting real.
We're voting. We're starting Game of the Year voting tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
By the time this publishes, we will have probably already held the meeting. And I think Horizon. I mean, we'll see how it shakes out, but that's absolutely one of the games on the short list.
yeah, so
For
that
sure.
starts tomorrow. Actually, by the time you are listening or watching this, our discussions will probably be ongoing.
Our Game of the Year nominees go up December 4th
Good
on
plug.
IGN.com, and we're it's going to be a tremendous amount of work between now and then.
And then speaking of tomorrow, Terry, is it true that early impressions of a certain movie go out tomorrow?
Is this going up tomorrow?
This will be up tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
Then yes, because by the time this goes up, they will probably have been up as
Okay, yeah,
well.
yeah.
So you can expect to hear early impressions of Justice League.
Justice League going up
film I
tomorrow.
have seen.
Yeah, Terry has seen it.
I have seen
And
it.
can say
At
nothing
long last.
more.
I have not seen it.
No, it was. I have seen it. Jim Vejvoda, our movies editor, will be reviewing it. We do not know when the review will be going
Really?
up, but I would imagine
Presumably before next
Wait,
week.
but your impressions can go up tomorrow too?
there is a social embargo.
Social media.
Can you say anything about it?
I
then?
believe so. If this is going
going
up
up-
after 9 a.m.
It'll be up after 9 a.m.
Perfect.
And
We
The
can-
movie's
you can
perfect?
hear- yeah. 10
out of
10. No, I cannot say anything that suggests a scoring of it. There are very specific rules to the social embargo.
Wonderful.
But what I will say is I had a lot more fun in this as someone who really disliked Suicide Squad and had issues with Batman vs. Superman. This movie has a job of making you want to care about the Justice League. And I think that you do. And that is great.
How much mom stuff is in it?
You do not hear the name. I will
Why'd you
answer that
take that
question.
name?
Actually, no, I guess there is a relatively decent amount of mom stuff because Martha Kent is a character in this film.
Do any characters talk to fish?
I like that this is 20 questions as well. There is discussions about do characters talk to fish, I will say that. Apparently it's more complicated than that.
All right. Okay.
Look for more of Terry's social media impressions.
Fish
Yeah,
scoop.
probably
Justice League
all
tomorrow.
280 characters
yeah,
of
there's
it.
more words now. Yeah, there's more
Yeah,
characters.
you can
That's
share
right.
more thoughts
Yeah,
now.
perfect timing. Maybe
That's
that's,
really
why
nice.
they like held it on this specific day instead of earlier because they knew about that Twitter expansion.
When are you seeing Last Jedi? Do you know?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. We don't know. But in the past, based on precedent, the first time people actually see it is at the premiere, which I believe has been held like the Monday of the week of release. So it's gonna be close. So
It's a late one.
Coming in hot.
yeah, they're very protective of those Star Wars movies, and with all the Disney stuff going on in the LA Times ban. I
Yeah.
don't know how much you guys have been paying attention to that, but it's clear Disney can be very protective of their properties, and they like to say it is a privilege and not a right for press to have access to the movies, and have set the precedent of no press screenings of these films before the premiere, which is stressful when you're trying to create a lot of content in time for release for you guys at home and ladies.
All right, that is all the scoops that we have for this week. Terry and David, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us,
Always,
guys.
always a pleasure, yeah. And Justin and Sam, you guys were pretty good too.
Oh, we tried.
You guys aced that Horizon.
Horizon
I'm
Zero
very
Dawn,
impressed.
Yeah, it's true. Remember, you can always reach us at the email address, gamescoop@ign.com. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Sam. Thank
you.
you, David. Thank you, Terry. My name is Damon. This is IGN Gamescoop, and we're out. Yep, big explosion. That's,
That-
yep, yeah, you blew up.